Let me ask you a quick question. How many times have you set a goal to get in shape, gone all in for a few weeks, and then, life just completely gets in the way? If that sounds familiar, I want you to look at this number right here. 5%. According to accelerometer data tracked across the US, an absolutely astonishing 5% of adults actually get the recommended 30 minutes of exercise a day. That is, honestly, it's a shocking reality, and it tells us something really important right off the bat. The way we approach fitness as a society, it's fundamentally broken. We're literally just burning ourselves out.
So, welcome to this explainer. Today, we are going to completely dismantle the guilt and the shame that surrounds working out. Our core mission here is to walk through the chronological life cycle of an exerciser. We're going to look at the exact behavioral science and the psychology you need to build a sustainable, lifelong fitness habit. We are definitely not talking about quick fixes here. We're talking about rewiring your brain for long-term success. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the exercise dropout epidemic. Second, finding your real motivation. Third, strategies for habit formation. Fourth, the power of consistency. And finally, recovery and sustainable fitness. Let's dive in. Section 1, the exercise dropout epidemic. I want to start by just totally validating any past struggles you've had with keeping a routine. Honestly, failing to stick with a workout plan is not a moral failing on your part. It's practically a statistical norm. To ground this in some hard data, research shows that up to 65% of people who start a new exercise routine are going to drop out within 3 to 6 months. One study even found that about 1 in 2 people actually exercise less after just their first month of a gym membership. Crazy, right? So if you've hit that 3-month wall before, you're just experiencing a really well-documented psychological and behavioral barrier. We always start with the best intentions, but without the right framework, those intentions just kind of evaporate. To fix this whole cycle, let's make sure we defined our terms early on. Like, what are we actually talking about when we say working out? There's a crucial difference here. Physical activity is simply any body movement made by your skeletal muscles that uses energy. Taking the stairs, carrying your groceries, sweeping the floor. But exercise is distinct. It's planned, it's structured, and it's repetitive movement done specifically to improve or maintain physical fitness. Now, both are absolutely incredibly important for your health, but today we're focusing on how to make that planned, structured part, the exercise, a permanent fixture in your life. Moving on to Section 2, finding your real motivation. Getting off the couch isn't really a problem of muscle, it's a problem of the mind. And that means we need to reframe our past failures as learning opportunities. Look at the difference here. On one side, we have extrinsic motivation. This is working out because of guilt, shame, or chasing some distant future reward, like a number on a scale. Research actually shows that when new gym members start out, nearly 93% cite future physical fitness as their main goal. But here's the catch. Extrinsic motivation almost never lasts. On the flip side is intrinsic motivation. This is doing the activity because it fulfills a basic psychological need, gives you immediate joy, reduces your stress, and just plain feels good right now. The science of self-determination theory tells us that people who actually stick to exercise long-term, they've successfully made that shift from extrinsic to intrinsic motivation. Behavioral medicine expert Michelle Sagar captures this shift just brilliantly. She says, if you need willpower to do something, you don't really want to do it. Just let that sink in for a second. I want that idea to completely shift your mindset away from guilt and shame today. Relying on white-knuckled willpower basically means your workout is just another chore. The real goal here is to design a routine that you actually want to do, not one you just force yourself to suffer through. So, what exactly replaces willpower? Well, as we can see here, the factors that truly drive exercise adherence are definitely not guilt and shame. They are enjoyment, habit, social support, and intrinsic motivation. For instance, if you absolutely hate running, but you love dancing or cycling or playing a sport with your friends, do that. Finding an activity that brings you a sense of flow and enjoyment is scientifically proven to drive long-term adherence way better than forcing yourself onto a treadmill that you despise. Which brings us to Section 3, strategies for habit formation. Okay, now that we have our mindset right, let's focus on the literal behavioral interventions we need to wire the brain for success. The crucial point here is how we build the habit mechanically. Researchers break this down into a highly actionable micro-tip. They essentially separate the habit into 2 phases. Step 1 is the preparatory phase. This is laying out your gym clothes the night before, packing your gym bag, maybe having your pre-workout snack at the exact same time every day. Step 2 is the performance phase. actually doing the workout. The data shows that executing a consistent preparatory habit is an incredible predictor of whether you will actually follow through with the performance phase. You're basically just creating an automatic environmental cue for yourself.
And how long do you actually need to keep those cues going? Well, a pivotal study tracking new gym members found that it takes about 6 weeks of exercising a minimum of 4 times a week to make the behavior truly automatic. So think about it like this. During week 1, your motivation is super high. But by week 3, you hit the danger zone. The friction feels high and the novelty has definitely worn off. But if you can just push through with those preparatory cues we talked about, by week 6, the habit is largely formed. The mental energy or cognitive cost of just getting out the door drops dramatically.
All right, section 4, the power of consistency.
Okay, so you've made it past week 6. You are officially in the maintenance phase. This is where we really have to learn that perfection is the absolute enemy of progress and why consistency beats intensity every single time. Let's rapid fire a few proven bite-sized strategies to keep that consistency when life inevitably gets crazy. First off, keep it short. A well-structured 15-minute workout is perfectly fine if you're pressed for time. Second, combine activities. Cycle or briskly walk during your commute. Third, make it social. Exercise with friends or join a group class to tap into that vital social support network. And fourth, if a routine doesn't work for you, just change it. Seriously, if it rains and you miss a run, don't view the whole project as a failure. Just pivot and try something else. It is so much easier to fit a routine into a busy schedule when you allow yourself to stay flexible.
Another massive driver of consistency is what researchers actually call exercise diversity. Mixing up your exercise modalities and your intensities is key to preventing boredom. You do not have to go all out at a level 10 exertion every single day. In fact, you really shouldn't. Having heavy days, light days, yoga days, and just regular walking days perfectly accommodates your fluctuating energy levels. It keeps you engaged and it keeps you feeling competent rather than completely burned out.
Section 5, Recovery and Sustainable Fitness.
And speaking of those fluctuating energy levels, this brings us to what is easily the most overlooked phase of the entire fitness journey. I want you to ask yourself this. What if doing nothing is actually doing something? It's a huge reframing question, isn't it? We live in this culture that completely glorifies the grind, but we really need to bridge the gap into the science of sleep and totally destigmatize our need for rest. Because here is the biological reality. You want to aim for 7 to 9 hours of sleep because that is the exact window when your muscles repair and your energy stores reset. Your body adapts to all that effort you've put in while you are sleeping, not while you're actively lifting the weights. Skipping sleep just to squeeze in an early workout often reduces your coordination, increases fatigue, and spikes your risk of injury. Remember our golden rule: consistency beats maximum intensity. A routine where you are well-rested and exercising moderately is just infinitely more sustainable than burning the candle at both ends until you inevitably drop out. And that brings us to the ultimate goal here: joy through movement. When you shift your focus away from distant physical outcomes and instead focus on how movement makes you feel mentally, reduce stress, a better mood, sharper focus, you completely take the pressure off. You naturally build a routine that you actually want to do. You move away from this rigid mindset of getting fit, and you just become someone who moves happily and habitually. To wrap up our explainer today, I want to leave you with this really memorable and hopefully provocative question. Will your next workout be a punishment or a reward? If it feels like a punishment right now, remember what we've talked about. Drop the guilt, find an activity you genuinely enjoy, start small, build up those preparatory habits, prioritize your sleep, and focus on the immediate joy it brings you. I really hope you walk away from this feeling empowered to tie your shoelaces with a totally new intrinsic mindset. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.